It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. You know, sometimes things just work out. I had a whole bunch of sound ready to go to talk about California's high-speed rail because a member of the assembly wants to defund the project. The California Secretary of Transportation is defending the project. And what do you know? The President of the United States was even talking about California's high-speed rail project that was voted on all the way back in 2008. Started the process of construction in 2012. Was supposed to be done San Francisco to Los Angeles in 2020 and then build an extension from Sacramento to San Diego. It is 2025. No train. And the scaling of that project went from San Francisco to Los Angeles to Wasco to Merced. I have been corrected. It is Wasco, not Wasco, even though it sure seems like it should be Wasco. Let's hear what the president had to say about high-speed rail.
One of the things I want to investigate rapidly, because I've never seen anything to this extent, the train that's being built between Los Angeles and San Francisco is the worst managed project I think I've ever seen, and I've seen some of the worst.
I mean, I can't disprove that.
Billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars over budget.
I think it's like $100 billion over budget, but I understand the sentiment. I believe this thing was going to cost $10 billion of taxpayer bonds with another $10 billion backed by the feds. That then ballooned up to $100 billion. Then they said it was $60 billion, but you know what? It's about $100 billion, which does that make a whole lot of sense? Are people going to use this thing?
In fact, I read where you could take every single person that was going to go on the train and get the finest limousine service in the world and take them back and forth with limousines, and you'd have hundreds of billions of dollars left over. It is the worst thing, and we're going to start an investigation in that because it's not possible. I built for a living, and I built on time, on budget.
And he's even built in California, but this is a project that is going to be one of the big legacy items, not just for Jerry Brown,
quite frankly,
but also for Gavin Newsom, because this is the prime example when people want to criticize how California can't do anything right. This is a massive, massive project that so many years later, 5 years after the project was supposed to be done, they're only now starting to lay down track. The permitting process for California's high-speed rail took 15 years. That's a problem. That is embarrassing. Now, there are some factors in there. You know, when you laid down the original railroads, there wasn't anything else out here. It was the wild, wild west. So yes, there is some cost when it comes to having to move utilities, having to eminent domain certain properties to get the rights of way that you need. But that should not take 15 years. And if you want to cry CEQA, you want a crime environmental review, well, you're the people in charge of that. If it's so impossible to get this thing done, then we have to change the way we do things because it's an embarrassment. Even if you would love the idea of a train, and I'm totally open to it, if it was built, because I like going to San Francisco. I think San Francisco has some beautiful parks and some great restaurants. And I don't want to drive my car to San Francisco because parking at hotels is ridiculously expensive. And if you park outside the hotels, you might get bipped.
It's impossible that something could cost that much. And now it's not even going to San Francisco, and it's not going to Los Angeles. They made it much shorter.
So yes. And it's one of the things that is so mind-boggling to me is, okay, you don't think you have the funding or the energy to build the whole thing at once. So the first section of track that you build doesn't connect the Bay Area to the Central Valley, doesn't connect the Bay Area to Los Angeles, doesn't connect Los Angeles to the Central Valley. It connects the Central Valley to the Central Valley. I don't know exactly who needs to go from Wasco, which is just outside of Bakersfield, to Merced, but you're going to have, in 8 years maybe, a section of train built that nobody will use because it doesn't go anywhere important.
So now it's at little places way away from San Francisco and way away from Los Angeles. No.
Even Scott Wiener, who we've been talking about a lot lately, Scott Wiener's always on my mind. He was on a very left-leaning podcast with Adam Conover, the Adam Ruins Everything guy. I listen to a lot of strange stuff in the car, all for you. And he was asked about the failures of high-speed rail. You know what? During a break, I'm going to see if I can get that because that sound was pretty good. And he was asked about the failures of high-speed rail, and he said it didn't make any sense to go from Wasco to Merced for the first track. If it would have connected the entire Bay Area, like gone from San Francisco to San Jose down to Merced, electrified that rail, you'd at least by now have something to show for it and can show people that you're going to build something that eventually will go all the way. Right now, we got nothing.
We're going to start a big investigation on that because I've never seen anything like it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. The worst overruns that there have ever been in the history of our country. And it wasn't even necessary. I would have said, you don't buy it. You take an airplane. It costs you $2. It costs you nothing. You take an airplane. But this got started. And if you have to, you drive. You can drive.
Are there other...
And that's some of the other the issues here. The flights are fairly simple and cheap, although sometimes you might be a little confused because you think you're flying to San Francisco and you're actually flying into San Francisco Bay Airport of Oakland. That's a real thing that happened, although that's in litigation. But the flight is an hour. The drive isn't terrible if you do it the right way. Of course, when we did the drive over the summer, we left our house at like 7 a.m., went the ugly way, which is like the 5 all the way up to you get to like, 880 it is. And everything was good till we got to the Bay Bridge. And then we didn't realize that we drove to San Francisco during the weekend of Pride, where there's lots and lots and lots of street closures. It took us 4.5 hours to get from Los Angeles to the Bay Area. And it took us 2 hours to get from the Bay Bridge to our hotel in downtown San Francisco.
Are there other agencies?
They have hundreds of billions of dollars of cost overruns. And it's not even the same project. It's much shorter. It's way outside of San Francisco and way outside of Los Angeles. So we're going to be looking into this.
I got to say, getting the federal government to pay attention to this is only going to be good, whether you want this train to exist or not, because it has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the people that have been in charge of this thing at the High Speed Rail Authority have made a mess of it. And sure, they'll tell you over and over again that we've created 10,000 jobs in the Central Valley, and that's great. But at what cost? And what do you have to show for it outside of the economic impact of that $10 billion you've spent? Now, it's not just the federal government that's criticizing California's high-speed rail project. No. We have got criticism going to the high-speed rail project coming all the way from Sacramento, including a member of the assembly that would like to defund the project. Now, you might be confused. Wait a second. Where exactly is the money for this project still coming from? Because there was a bond that was for $10 billion. It was going to get backed by the federal government for another $10 billion. And then Biden gave us like $3 billion from the infrastructure package. Turns out California, in their discretionary budget, spends $1 billion a year on this train, which means if we really wanted to build this thing fast, let's defund all of the homeless budgets because they haven't done a damn thing. There was a story I listened to on the way in. Fascinating. San Francisco has spent 10 times the amount they used to spend on homelessness in the last 10 years. And it has had a negligible difference in the amount of people on the streets. It's almost like if you didn't spend any money on this, would it have any difference? Let's hear who wants to defund the project and why. Here is KSSE, I don't know, it's CBS 47 in the Fresno area.
A local assemblywoman wants to defund the high-speed rail project and spend some of that money, or at least a lot of that money, on wildfire prevention.
Oh, well, we could use that. Feel like there's a lot of budgets in the state government that could be defunded and put that money towards actual wildfire prevention.
But the project's supporters.
I mean, I might be called a horrible person for this, but I want to eradicate all the chaparral in California. I don't think it makes sense. I don't care what it does to the environment. I don't think it makes sense to have trees that thrive on fire. Nah, get rid of all of them.
But the project's supporters say one doesn't have to cancel the other out. Our Brianna Bias is live in studio now after speaking with both sides. All right, Brianna, what are they saying?
Well, Emily, Eric, construction on the California high-speed rail began back in 2015. And since then,
It's been 10 years.
And since then, crews have worked on 171 miles of track. But Assembly...
They haven't actually put the track down, but they've cleared all the pathways. Gavin actually took a victory lap. Earlier this year, we played you the sound where he was proud of the fact that finally all the permitting got done in 2025. If it takes that long to permit, you got a problem.
But Assemblywoman Alexandra Macedo thinks it's all a waste of money.
A colossal project labeled by critics a colossal failure.
When this was passed, it was
I mean, it's the Fresno market. They could do better, but it's fine. I don't want to use colossal twice, but they did. It's okay.
when this was passed, it was a $30 billion project. We're now over $120 billion.
Assembly.
And the number will keep going up because the longer it takes to build anything, and anyone who's done any contracting will tell you, the longer it takes to build anything, your fixed costs will go up because materials go up and labor costs go up.
Assemblywoman Alexandra Macedo from Tulare says it's time to pull the brake on the California high-speed rail.
I mean, you knew that was coming, right? You knew there was going to be some kind of pun.
It's time to pull the brake on the California high-speed rail.
It's a priority issue that I understand people that are like, we've made these investments, but the high-speed rail project has proven with the money they're given, they're not responsible.
A state.
Well, yes, as evidenced by they haven't even picked out what the trains will be. There's a real concern, at least for me, that by the time the first section of this train is operational, which is the best estimate they're giving now, 2031, all the way up to 2033, so 8 more years from now, is this technology even going to be relevant? I mean, technology is moving really, really, really fast. You look at AI, it's advancing every day. I'm not saying we're going to get there, but what happens to all of these massive infrastructure projects when they figure out how to teleport you like in Star Trek?
A state discretionary fund gives $1 billion a year to the project, but Macedo thinks it would be better spent on wildfire prevention.
You can make a fair argument with that. Now, I'd like to take a look at the entire budget. I think there might be some other fat you can definitely trim from the California state budget, but this could be some of it.
Here's some money. Now let's put it to good use rather than towards a project that has proven time and time again that they cannot meet goals. And fiscally,
How many goats could we hire for that $1 billion a year?
it's impossible for them to achieve this project.
She drafted Assembly Bill 267 in response to the LA wildfires. She now wants to shift high-speed rail funds toward groundwater storage and transportation. But high-speed rail supporters say they shouldn't have to choose between the two. Merced Assemblywoman...
You're going to need that train to flee when your area gets caught on fire.
Merced Assemblywoman Esmeralda Soria sent us a statement saying the project has provided more than 10,000 jobs and support.
You know how I don't care for when people talk about, the benefits of of everyone going back to the office and getting rid of remote work are we need to revitalize downtown. If the best thing you can say about a massive infrastructure project is it's created jobs, no, create jobs doing something else. Show me that you've built something.
Merced Assemblywoman Esmeralda Soria sent us a statement saying the project has provided more than 10,000 jobs.
And what were they doing?
And supported local business.
We have just a whole bunch of people sitting on crews waiting for the permitting to be okayed.
And supported local businesses. And in a recent interview.
That's right, because all the people working to build these platforms that do not have a train or rail yet, they got to buy sandwiches somewhere. It benefits the economy, even though if you do that math, which we could do that math. Okay, we're going to do that math, right? Okay, so we had $10 billion. That's a lot of zeros. Divided by 10,000 jobs. We could have given every single one of those people $1 million. All those jobs that we created could have given them $1 million.
And supported local businesses.
I don't know if I did that. Yeah, I think I did do that math right? Because 1,000 thousands is $1 million, 1,000 millions is $1 billion. See, these numbers are astronomical.
And supported local businesses. And in a recent interview, Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer also praised the project's economic impact.
This is really our opportunity to be reconnected to that California economy through high-speed rail.
Yeah, but it connects the section that they're starting off with that will be operational in 8 years. No idea where the funding or the time for the rest of this, let alone figuring out how you tunnel through the Tehachapi Mountains, which does not sound that safe in earthquake country. It's going from Wasco to Merced. Who needs that?
If you can imagine people working in the Silicon Valley, but living in downtown.
What did you say, Jerry?
If you can imagine people working in the Silicon Valley, but...
Silicon Valley? Okay, is he talking about Silicon Valley or is he talking about Beverly Hills? Hey-o!
The Silicon Valley, but living in downtown Fresno.
In a perfect...
But it doesn't go to the Silicon Valley or the Silicon Valley.
In a perfect world, we could finish this project, but we don't exist in a perfect world.
Macedo sees the high-speed rail as a cool idea, but she says compared to wildfire prevention, it's a low priority.
I mean, when we do the budget this year, I think we have to reconfigure a lot of our priorities because obviously making sure that our communities can survive these devastating weather events, no matter how you think they were caused, should be paramount. That should be the number one job of government. So yeah, if we got to take some money out of this, sure. But I'm sure if we looked at that budget, I'm sure there's a lot of fat to trim.
I also reached out to the California High-Speed Rail Authority to hear their thoughts on all of this, but they said that they don't comment on pending litigation. They did, however, tout that the project has generated $21.8 billion for the Central Valley economy. In studio.
On what? That you created jobs? Okay. But there's no train.
In studio, I'm Brianna Bias, KC24, local news that matters.
Well, I don't want to just play one side's opinion on this. I want to be fair. I want to hear what they have to say. So when we come back, we're going to hear from the California Secretary of Transportation. He is appointed by Gavin Newsom, and his name is Tokes Omashakin. And Gavin loves him, loves to say, oh, Tokes is here. He used to run Caltrans, so he would always be out there with Gavin when they're cleaning up a homeless encampment, and Gavin's got the sleeves rolled up so he can show off the guns. Well, this guy is now in charge of the California Transportation Agency, and he spoke to a whole bunch of business leaders in the Central Valley about high-speed rail for the High-Speed Rail Authority. So we'll hear his side of it. And if I can clean up the sound from it, I'll play you what Scott Wiener had to say about the failures of California high-speed rail. But I also want to talk to you at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Here we are. It is 17 years after you voted on this thing, whether you voted yes or no. 10 years after construction started. We've still got no train. They just barely got the permitting done. Do you want to see this project continue? Do you want to see it defunded and stopped and just leave those platforms as a reminder? Or do you want to see somebody go in there and fix this thing and get it done right? What do you want to see happen with California's high-speed rail? Even the president's talking about this today. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What do you want to see happen with the California high-speed rail project? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. The president is talking about high-speed rail today. He wants to know how the heck this thing got so incredibly bloated and nothing's actually been built yet. There's an assemblywoman that wants to defund the high-speed rail, but the high-speed rail says, no. The permitting's all done. You're finally going to see something. What do you want to see happen to California's high-speed rail? Do you want to see this thing defunded, abandoned, fixed? How do you see this thing? What do you want to see happen with your tax dollars? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We'll get to you next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. And search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Let's go to the phones right now at 800-222-KABC. The President of the United States wants to investigate what the hell happened to California's high-speed rail. A member of the Assembly wants to defund California's high-speed rail. What do you want to see happen to the California high-speed rail project that was voted on in 2008? Started construction in 2015, and here we are 10 years later, and they just got all the permitting done. Let's start with Curtis in L.A. Curtis, hello.
Hey, Brandy, it's Kurt. Hope you're doing well.
Doing great.
As an engineer, the thing that kind of disturbed me the most on this was the lady on the report said they hadn't even picked the design of the train yet. I ask you the question this. Why are they reinventing the train? I mean, Japan has had high-speed rail for, 50 years. They could have just, licensed a train or done something like that, figured out a design instead of reinventing. I've talked to other engineers, and they're trying to basically reinvent the wheel, which is the number one rule in engineering. You never want to reinvent the wheel. And so because of that, they're just wasting money trying to figure out where they're going instead of taking a proven design, using it, and then getting that built and building on it to improve. So they're just wasting money and wasting engineering time. And so that's my point. Your thoughts on that?
I think you make such a good point. Curtis, I think you make such a good point. Thank you so much for the call, buddy. This is what California does. Yeah, we consulted with Japan when we were figuring out ideas for the high-speed rail. And like Curtis said, Japan got their first high-speed rail built in 5 years in the 60s. This is not new technology. But when it comes to California government contracts, we always have this bidding process where we've got to reinvent the wheel. I'll give you a perfect example to what he's talking about. Do you remember about 10, 11 years ago when LAUSD said, you know what we need to do? We need to get iPads for every single kid at LAUSD. Except we're not going to get them iPads. We're going to create our own kind of tablet. And instead of having this free software that's available, we're going to pay a developer a whole bunch of money to create a new piece of software to educate your kids. The whole thing was yet another boondoggle and a nightmare. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We could have copied Japan's train, which again is 50-year-old technology, 60-year-old technology. Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, by the time this thing is done, the technology will be so outdated it doesn't make sense anymore. The world is changing fast, kids. Let's go to Richard in L.A. Richard, hello.
How you doing, Randy? Great show. But, you look at that train, that's a pet peeve of Governor Brown. And, he was complaining about China. And look who we got president now. I guess he loves China, right? So, the parts of that train is going to be enormous by the time we finish that. And besides that, the logic, it's operating a speed train in this type of structure, infrastructure, look, you work in Los Angeles, okay, you going to lunch in San Francisco? No, you get on a plane. Why would you sit on a train for 2-3 hours unless you were playing dominoes? So, the logic of it is just not really ready for us. It's, if you want to ride a speed train, we have it at Disneyland.
Exactly. There you go. Get on the old Thunder Mountain, Richard. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. People always wonder when it comes to transportation why we never got the Disneys involved. They built that monorail a long time ago. They built that people mover a long time ago. They got rid of the people mover a very long time ago, and LA is finally starting to build one at LAX. There we go. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Patrick in Baldwin Park. Patrick, hello.
Hey, Randy, how's it going?
Doing great.
So we got the permits all signed off for the train, huh?
Yes, it took 15 years.
I wonder how long it's going to take to get. I wonder how long it's going to take to get the permit signed off for Pacific Palisades and for the Eaton. Especially since they're going to cut through the red tape. They pay. There's the more bureaucracy there is, the more chance there is for people to dip their beak, as the mafia used to say. So it's got to stop. We need to go on a high-speed train diet. Thank goodness Donald Trump's calling it for what it is and is going to take a look at it, because these guys just keep shoveling it in, and we get no results.
The best thing that can happen right now is for California policies like this and California ineptitude like this to get a national spotlight. Patrick, thanks so much for the call, buddy. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to George in L.A. George, hello.
Hey, good afternoon or evening, I should say. Yeah, I'm against the high-speed rail. If it costs $150 billion to build it just in the Central Valley, that's flat, there's nothing around, what's it going to cost to get to San Francisco or L.A.? $50 trillion?
They haven't even actually figured out a feasible plan of how you get through the Tehachapi Mountains. So there's going to be a long time before they figure out how you get from Bakersfield to L.A.
Yeah, exactly. It'll never happen. It's just a waste of money.
Thanks so much for the call, George. Appreciate it. I'm telling you, the transporters are coming quicker. I mean, we're about to have robocars that can go anywhere. And if you have an entire automated fleet and it's completely regulated, maybe the cars can go 200 miles an hour. I don't know. I don't feel safe with that. There's also the issue of a lot of trains have been derailing. The infrastructure for our current train infrastructure is not great. The Pacific Surfliner, the roads keep crumbling under it. I mean, it's one thing when a train derails at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. What's it going to look like if a train derails at 200 miles an hour? I don't know. Let's go to Rocco in Santa Clarita. Rocco, hello.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for taking my call. No, I'm against the train. I love trains concept, but this train is a ridiculous pit that we're pouring money into. I want our money back. Give the money back to the taxpayers is my idea. I don't care if you take it from whoever spent it. Take it from their hide. We need the money back, and that'll teach them a lesson. This is ridiculous.
There you go, Rocco.
It's from nowhere to nowhere. And
Watsco to Merced specifically, my friend. Yeah. They could have started with Bay Area to Central Valley. They could have started with LA to Central Valley, or LA to Orange County, or LA to San Diego, or something that would have been beneficial. And I totally understand wanting to add to the economy of the Central Valley, but you did not connect it to anything. I'm going to look up the population of Merced during the break. Let's go to Eric in San Pedro. Eric, hello.
Hey, the other thing is a train wreck. It's, the premise of the train was to electrify, right? Pollution, and which is whatever, whether you agree or not. But now we are so far beyond that. You have electric car fleets, right? So basically, if you just fixed your highways, fixed the 5 from here to San Francisco and run on electric cars, as you said, maybe it's people's cars drive themselves or something. But the train has never been reasonable. We don't have the population density. If you look at the math on the stupid metro, it doesn't work because there's not enough people riding it. People don't pay to ride the metro. It's just this big thing that your taxpayers, I don't know where the money goes. Somebody's getting paid. But, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. It'll never get built. Somebody needs to pull the plug. Stop it.
Looks like that might happen, Eric. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, This just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And the technology is changing so quickly. Does it make sense to build these massive infrastructure projects? I mean, you want to talk about the changing of the world when it comes to an all automated car fleet. It's going to take, 30 years just to tunnel the Sepulveda Pass? There's got to be another way. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. More of your phone calls, and we'll hear what the California Secretary of Transportation has to say about high-speed rail. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls on high-speed rail. Let's go to Jack in Studio City. Jack, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Doing great.
Okay. My opinion, stop throwing money at this train and start building our reservoirs and our water system. That's where the money should go. If the fire up north and the 2 fires down south haven't taught you something, you're not paying attention.
Well, not only that, Jack, but we actually voted yes on a bond measure 11 years ago in 2014 to build new reservoirs. They have the money and they never spent it.
I'm aware of that, but what we voted, the bond we voted for probably wouldn't cover the cost now because everything's gone up so astronomically. So take the money from the train, add it to what we've got for the reservoirs, and build them.
There you go. Thanks so much for the call, Jack. Appreciate it. I think if you polled Californians, their number one priority above anything else is doing everything we can to make sure fires like what happened last month never happen again. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Vince writes in and says, with the Department of Government Efficiency, I don't like saying Doge, the funding will be gone for high-speed rail. Musk is sniffing around. Musk needs Department of Government Efficiency, the $25 billion that Newsom said he was going to explain where it went. It's obvious that Newsom has no answers. There is truth to that. I don't like to say Doge because I put $100 into Dogecoin and, it ain't worth crap. Let's go to Ed in Santa Clarita. Ed, hello.
How you doing, Randy?
Doing great.
Great. I just want to say, you know what? We need no high-speed rail train. All we need at this point is our money back. And if it's such a good idea about those things, let private people finance it so they can profit from it. I don't want us to put money so rich people will collect money, like put the high-speed train to Las Vegas so people can have more customers and then more money, and I pay for the train and the fare. I say, no, on this one, give me my money back, and let's do something like the other caller said, just do some reservoirs. So for water, we need water.
There you go, Ed. Thanks so much for the call. Interesting. Last year it was announced that a private company is going to build a high-speed train from Victorville to Vegas. And that one they say will be done by 2028. I sure hope so. Let's go to Tom in Boyle Heights. Thomas, hello.
Hey, Randy, thanks for taking my call. I'll make it brief. My take is this. Whenever a proposition is proposed, they give it a pretty name and they put lipstick on that pig. Well, when this was proposed, I think the whole idea was to create a Northern California metropolitan regional transportation system. And so they wanted the whole state of California to pay for it. And the reason they could do that was because all the political power is really in Northern California. So that's my take. This is what it really was about, was to make us pay for a Northern California regional transportation system. What's your take on that, Randy?
I think you make a very strong point. And somehow when they ran out of money, they're like, okay, the only thing we can afford is Central Valley. And now it doesn't make sense for anybody. Thomas, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's hear from the California Secretary of Transportation, Tokes Omasakian.
But we have a true commitment to it in transportation in California. Number one, safety. We know this project will make transportation mobility safer.
How?
Because obviously rail is a safer mode of travel than driving on the highways with so many conflicts that you see driving conflicts that you see on the highway. Number two,
you can make an argument for that.
Number two, climate action. We know this is going to help reduce X amount of metric tons of CO2, all those things. We know all that stuff.
Yeah, but none of that matters because the wildfires already have reversed any progress we made on reducing emissions.
So climate action, the support is there. Number three, equity.
Uh-oh.
Equity.
Wait, we're building this train for equity?
Equity. You may wonder, what in the world does this have to do with equity? Well, it's also potentially a cheaper way to travel than having to maintain and buy a car, pay insurance, and all the things that you have to do with a vehicle.
Well, theoretically, yes, but how exactly are you getting from your home to the high-speed rail station to your final destination in just the one train? If I want to use this thing in 2033, I got to drive my car up to Wasco. Which is like 2 hours already. Wasco is just like a couple exits before you hit 46 and then go to Paso.
There are things like housing that this will help support. Solutions related to that from an equity standpoint. You can live, in the Valley and work in the Los Angeles region or work in the Bay Area because
you could work in the Bay Area and then in the summertime know that you've got to take that train to 120-degree Central Valley. I don't think we thought this thing through. Thank you all so much for your calls and your emails. I believe this topic is going to be getting a lot of attention in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be sure to be on it. We're here every single day talking about the local issues that matter to you most. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.